Hello and welcome to the Robot VARNAC video show. Today we are going to clean up this old coffee grinder. Yes folks, this is a coffee grinder in pieces. I guess it couldn't pull itself together again. Well, if you're ever at the flea market or something and you want to try to save some money, you might want to consider buying an old coffee grinder and cleaning it up using the steps I'm going to show you here today. So if you, instead of buying a expensive coffee grinder new, you can breathe new life into an old piece of junk and bring it back to life and use it again. So let's get started. You'll need a wire brush, an old toothbrush, some household ammonia to clean the grease, a little plastic bottle to put the screws in. So let's get started. So you want to put the little screws in the plastic jug here so they don't get lost. And fill this, put this, see how the screws are now soaking in ammonia. You want to use a little plastic bottle like that so you can shake it around and get the ammonia action started to clean the screws off. I am now adding the ammonia to the wash basin. You want to use about a 50-50 split of water. Soak the parts in the ammonia to get the grease off. Do this in a well-ventilated room, folks, because the ammonia is pretty powerful. While cleaning your old coffee grinder, you want to take a look at the grinding action here. In this old coffee grinder, the coffee beans come down from the hopper and into this grinding mechanism. They call this a burr grinding mechanism because the burrs are supposed to grind the coffee beans better than the newer ones where it has like a little blender blade that cuts them up, and so the heat is supposed to ruin the coffee beans. So after everything gets good and soaking here, you can see, yes folks, you can see the old dirt literally coming off from the powerful action of the household ammonia. So you can use an old paintbrush and really get the grease, the old grease off. So let's let the ammonia do its work. As I said, try to do this in a well-ventilated room. Just let the amazing power of the simple old-fashioned ammonia do its work. Don't leave the ammonia on there too long because you don't want the cast iron to rust. So you can literally see the dirt coming off of there. Most of the dirt will be in the burrs, where you can see where the coffee fell in there over the years as it's being ground up. And that's where the wire brush comes in. So you can follow the lines of the old burr and use the metal brush and gently clean out the old burrs. You want to take this thing apart and clean it out thoroughly. You don't know if someone might have been grinding wasabi in there, and you just don't want to get a drink of wasabi, and that might not taste so good. So you want to make sure the grinder is good and clean before using it again. You can see how much dirt is coming off of there. It'd probably be better to do this outdoors instead of inside. But as you can see, the burrs coming clean with the wire brush. Considering its age, the burr is actually pretty sharp. But if you were concerned about sharpness of the burr, you could probably take a V file and kind of sharpen some of the burrs and make it sharper if you like. But as far as I can tell, this burr looks good enough to use without having to do that. Or just don't let, since your hands are wet, you'll probably get more likely to be cut, so be very careful using the metal brush with wet hands. You might even want to consider using gloves, but gloves will reduce your textile sensitivity. So you want to keep your skin to feel what you're doing, but be careful using the wire brush, because it could cut your skin, especially if your hands are wet. So just let the ammonia do its work. And try to use brush in the direction of the burrs so you get clean out the little nooks and crannies in there. Because once they say you taste fresh ground coffee, there's no going back to ground coffee or instant coffee. I should have done this outside, but the show must go on. So keep cleaning and make sure everything is good and clean. You want to make sure the burrs are nice and clean. Get that old kitchen grease off of there. Especially if you're gonna paint it again, you wanna get down to the good clean metal so you could repaint it again if need be. This is the side that moves the burr closer, so when it's set up, it adjusts the spacing of the burrs to determine a fine or coarse grind of the coffee. If the burrs are closer together, it'll be a nice fine grind. If the burrs are further apart, it'll be a coarse grind. Just keep cleaning everything, clean all that grease off of there. Looks like it was never painted in the first place, it's just bare metal. Just keep cleaning all that grease off of there, and this thing was used in someone's kitchen before. As you can see, the ammonia is now stained with all the coffee residue. Get the brush right in there and clean all the parts out. Keep your hands away from the wire bristles so they don't cut you. That part looks clean. Notice how I'm keeping my hand away from the wire bristles. Looks like this thing was sold with just a little bit of gold paint on plain cast iron. Let's keep cleaning all the parts. come back to the burrs, make sure they're all clean. Make sure all the parts are good and clean. If this is how it left the Universal factory, I guess I'll leave it the same color. Don't forget to clean the shaft too. This is important too. The beans go in here too to get crushed down and ground up in the burrs. Let the ammonia and the metal brush do their thing. You could probably use emery cloth too, but the metal brush seems to be working just fine. Again, keep your skin away from the wire bristles. Work slow and take your time. You don't want to go crazy with this thing and hurt yourself, or let the chemicals and the brush do the work so you don't have to. Since it's used, you'll never get it completely factory new clean, but it'll be close enough. You don't want to grind it down too much where it's loose in the holes too. There you can see Universal. From what I found out, the Universal company was selling these apparently in the late 60s, early 70s, but I could be wrong. If you know when the Universal coffee grinder was made and sold, let me know in the comments. New versions of this are being sold. There's a company in Japan that makes them too. I think a company in Spain was making them too. No doubt Universal probably contracted with one of those other companies to make them, and they were selling them here, so it's probably a cheap import thing back then. It's coming very clean. The ammonia is doing its thing. Get all the, to make this easier to use, you'll probably want to put it on some kind of block so elevate, so your hand doesn't bump into the countertop with the crank. See, the Universal company, apparently it's the same Universal that was known for their meat grinders, so it stands to reason they would sell a coffee grinder. It's coming cleaner than I thought. It's working faster than I thought. But you want to get all the old coffee residue off of there. You can still see it's some staining there. Use the brush in the direction of the metal grinding that from the factory, so you clean along the cut lines. You don't want to keep it wet too long because you want to wash it off and dry it out so rust doesn't happen, so that you don't want to leave this sitting around overnight. You want to do it right away so you can dry it off so the parts do not rust, especially the grinding burrs. Abracadabra, presto, change-o-ree, alakazam. The old coffee grinder that was here before is now ready to be put together and cleaned up. As you can see, the parts are now cleaned up and ready to go through the power of magic. Video magic, that is. That's another story. Here we're going to put this coffee grinder back together again right before your very eyes. So you want the cap to open up towards you. You want the parts to be good and tight on there so you don't have to take it apart again. But you also don't want to strip the metal either. And you want the cap to face towards you when you're opening and closing it there for the little drawer to go in like that. But now it's time to put the burr put the burr back in. Here's the burr, folks. You might have seen it before. Coffee beans fall in here and they get twisted around through there and they come out and fall into the drawer down there. So now the burr grinder is back in place. Don't tighten the screws all the way until they're all in place there and ready to go. As I said before, once you try fresh ground coffee, there's no going back to the instant or the pre-ground coffee. You'll want ground coffee all the time. So if you could buy an old coffee grinder like this and fix it up yourself, you'll be good to go. So as you can see in there, the burr is in there. You can see how it's grinding. If you could see the light, I don't know if you could see enough light in there, but you get an idea of what that is. And there's a hole in there for the hand wheel, so you want to make sure you line up the hand wheel. One way to make sure you found the hole is to tighten the burr all the way so the hand wheel doesn't turn as easily, and that means you got the screw into the reference hole there. So tighten it good and tight so it doesn't come loose. Loosen the burr. You might be able to see the burr in there. Let's see if we can get closer. You can see the grinding action, what would happen. And as you tighten this thing, tightens the burr in there and makes the fine, rougher or coarser grounds, depending on how much it's tightened in there. So now the next thing to do is to mount the grinder onto its base, like so. Might have been better to put the base on before putting the hand wheel on, but that's another story. And put the drawer back in. This old universal coffee grinder is good for another lifetime of service. Let me know what you think in the comments. How you could save money buying an old coffee grinder and cleaning it up yourself. Either using it yourself, or in this case, you could sell it again, perhaps. These go for crazy money on eBay and other places like that. So let me know what you think in the comments. And remember to like, subscribe, and comment. So that's the end for now. See you next time, folks.